Hi folks, welcome to my channel. This is Bree at Life Abuse. I'm with Tamara Young today. We are recording together.
Yes, we are. Hello.
Hi everybody. So today folks, we'll be talking about spiritual abuse. How spiritual abuse feels like, and I have experience regarding it. She also has her own experience regarding spiritual abuses, and I do understand that maybe some of these people that are spiritually abusing others might not know that they are subsequently abusing other people spiritually, but I do know that some people out there are very aware and they don't care, because I believe that they are involved in a cult.
Yes, for sure.
So I don't know what's that for. So I can share about my own experience in the name of spiritual abuse in that matter.
Okay.
So I will tell you about my experiences in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. My experience regarding spiritual abuses, especially from churches that I've been involved with, and that my abuser also has been involved with. So I'm not going to mention named folks right now.
We don't want a lawsuit now.
But there's a church that me and my ex has been involved with. However, the pastor who had married us, was fully aware of these abuses. However, he wanted the marriage to work, because he felt like he's obligated to help us to stay in that marriage, although he knew what was going on. It came to a point where when I left my abuser and I had went to British Columbia, the pastor reached out to me and had mentioned to me that, Brilliant, I am really sorry that I was causing you harm, because I took it upon myself that I want your marriage to work, and I did not know that I was causing scars, and I did not know that the wounds that you were caused by your spouse at that time were deep. You know what I'm saying? So I communicated with the pastor as well how I felt about how he dealt with the issue, that he did not know, or maybe he knew, I don't know, that I was being wounded.
Yeah.
And the only thing that he wanted to do, because he married us, he wanted our marriage to work. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, he did not realize that he was causing me more harm, because I was in an abusive marriage. He knew this, but however, he was trying to make it work. And he said that, I'm really sorry. I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not a professional. I'm just a pastor. I wanted your marriage to work. I did not know that I was causing you a lot of wounds, because I did not know that how deep were your wounds. I should have let the counseling be done by professional people. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I will. That's my spiritual abuse that that it caused me spiritual abuse, because as a pastor, he wanted the marriage to work. However, I'm the one who was living with my ex. I'm the one who knew how I was being abused and how deep it was. Although my ex will say things to the pastor to make himself look good, and the pastor did not know.
If you don't mind me saying something about this, I think too a lot of that comes from, like you said, your abuser was putting things in a way to your pastor, which made it seem like this was just normal marital issues.
Yeah, but the thing is,
but it is a pastor's job.
Yes,
to have discernment.
That's true. That's true.
That is something the church lacks.
So most pastors out there does not have any discernment whatsoever. I do believe that they are in a cult. Yes. Because it's only a cult that, I'm not saying those churches are a cult, they are operating like in a cult, because anybody who is standing for something and then go against it is a cult. I don't care what you say about that. Okay, so I'm not saying that the churches that I was involved with are cult, but they are operating like a cult. So don't you be twisting our words and say, oh, Bree said that. I did not say that you are a cult. I said that you are operating like a cult.
Yes, glad we got that out of the way.
Yes.
So, an experience that I had
Yep.
is more like, it's not necessarily spiritual abuse. It is, but it's also like protecting somebody
The abuser.
because of their position in the church.
Oh.
Right? So I had an experience where I was around 17 years old, maybe a little bit older,
Okay.
and I went on this missions trip with a intern pastor and his wife.
Okay.
So it was me, and it was like a bunch of youth.
Okay.
Okay, so some of us were older, some of us were like probably 14, 15.
Wow.
Okay, so before I go into that, though, I'll tell you a little backstory.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy, I
Yep.
can't mention names, but this guy and his wife came to this church.
Okay.
They took a particular interest in me. I really bonded with
At
the
14
wife.
years old.
At 17.
17, okay.
I really bonded with the wife. I really trusted her. And, you know, but her husband had taken, like, a particular interest in me. So he had messaged me an inappropriate message that said something along the lines of, tell me your dirty little secrets.
Wow.
So what I did is I actually took a picture of it, like a screenshot, and I sent it to his wife, who then lied.
Good girl.
I don't play. And then lied and said, oh, this was actually meant for my best friend, so-and-so. So that was the first red flag.
Okay.
This man was also trying to set me up with his friend. So he wanted me to be in a relationship with his friend, but in that way, he had this control over me.
Wow.
Because he would say things like, oh, like, you know, this person will never date you. I have so much say in this person's life. Like, it would almost be like he was trying to control me.
Wow.
By putting fear in me that he could say whatever he wanted to this guy.
Right?
And at 17 years old, you know, I really liked this guy. However, like, it never escalated more than that then, but it was just inappropriate anyway for this intern pastor to be trying to hook me up with his friend.
And you were young at that age, though.
I was. And then we went to a missions trip. Okay, this is when things got weird. I had actually went to La Senza on this missions trip because we got to go to the mall.
Okay.
I had bought like underwear and pajamas.
Okay.
And he asks me like, what do you have in the bag? Is it underwear?
The pastor.
Yes, the pastor. Pastor. Okay. And I said, you know, it's embarrassed as I was like, oh, no, it's just pajamas. So he gives me this flashlight to go give to his wife. So I'm assuming that he looked into my bag. I don't know. I have no evidence. But when he brought me home after the weekend, he walked me to my door and he looked at me and he said, enjoy your panties. So that was very immature.
That was very inappropriate.
But going back, though, we were playing hide and go seek. Okay?
The pastor was there, too?
The pastor.
Wow.
The intern pastor, his wife.
Okay.
This other chaperone, but he was asleep.
Okay.
And my friends that were on this missions trip.
Wow.
So this man decides that it would be a good idea to play hide and go seek in his underwear.
Wow.
And I'm not talking about boxers. I'm talking tighty whities. Like you can see the imprint of his penis. Okay? And he's playing hide and go seek. Actually, it's called sardines, I believe. Wow. And I remember just being like, this is so inappropriate. You know, I felt really uncomfortable, but no one else said anything. I kind of think that there was like a sense of uncomfortableness with everybody, but nobody wanted to say anything.
Because people are afraid to speak up.
We are.
basically.
In those situations, it's like you don't want to speak out and cause drama. You're also away from your home with these people, right? So it was just very inappropriate. At one point, me and him were on the stairs in this church.
Okay.
And he tells me to look up, insinuating that I'm looking at his junk, his penis. So all of that, if that's not bad enough, we go home. I'm there. I tell my aunt and her friend about this. I'm like, you know, I'm really conflicted. Like, I feel like I should tell the pastor. Like, I feel like this is very inappropriate behavior.
Exactly.
You know, and up until this point, the pastor, the actual pastor of that church was like my biggest supporter.
Wow.
He was trying to teach me how to sing the high notes. But I'm going to get there to that spiritual abuse in a second if we got time.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
Because I'll go there in a second. But, you know, he was trying to teach me how to sing the high notes.
Exactly.
He was, you know, trying to help me.
Yeah.
Letting me have an opportunity. He told me that I can, like, do up a lesson for the young girls, for the youth, about purity and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, I was super excited. So, I messaged my pastor at the time, and I'm like, I just want you to know, like, this is what happened. You know, this is very inappropriate.
Exactly.
So I go to the pastor. I talk to him in person. He's like, oh, Tamara, you had me so worried. I thought it was something serious.
Are you serious?
I'm serious, girl.
The pastor kind of condoned this situation, though.
Oh, he said he would deal with it, but what he did actually was he punished me.
So, wow.
So it was never addressed.
This is something, well, I'm not trying to say anything bad about, anything or anybody, but where I grew up, in a church, if somebody has done something inappropriate, they become pretty much excommunicated from the church, from doing the duties in the church. For example, if you are a pianist, or you are a singer, you don't get to sing for 1 year because you are being disciplined for your bad behavior.
Exactly. Not only that, Brie, you gotta look at, like, that's pedophilic behavior.
Exactly.
And to not address that issue. So it was never addressed.
Wow.
Okay. He said he talked to them, but after that he started to punish me. So he wouldn't let me sing anymore. Wow. He wanted me, we went to this youth rally thing, and he completely embarrassed me. He was like, I don't want you to sing. You can't reach the notes.
That was operating like a cult.
Yes.
In my view.
It is, 100%. He told me that all girls should be able to sing high notes.
Excuse me.
So he made me feel less than because I couldn't reach certain notes. He told me that all women should be able. This is after I told him about this, this situation.
Wow.
And then the worst thing is, I had done up my lesson plan for the girls that I was supposed to teach. That he told me before I told him about what happened.
Exactly.
That I could teach.
Wow.
He calls me out in front of the whole youth group. And he's like, Tamara, I don't trust you. I wouldn't trust you with these young women. I mean, at this time, too, like, I was a virgin. I was completely pure. I was living for Jesus. There was, like, absolutely no reason for him to call me out like that.
Wow.
And I told my aunt about it, and she said, Tamara, they're mad at you because you came forward about this.
Exactly.
They want to keep it hidden. They're trying to protect their friends. And you called them out on their BS, pretty much.
Exactly.
She didn't say it word for word. But if you know my aunt, she doesn't talk like that.
I know her.
But that's essentially what she said. Like, when you speak truth, people are going to hate you.
Exactly. So those who dare to speak up, they are being silenced, they are being suppressed, they are being oppressed. If you speak up about something, they're trying to silence you anyhow. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And punish you and make it seem like you're this pariah. It was very heartbreaking for me. I remember I lost all trust in that pastor. I was like in my friend's car. I was bawling my eyes out. I was so heartbroken. Yeah. And I realized, it's because I told him what happened, and it was never addressed. But this is the thing about God, is He vindicates for us.
He's a God of vengeance.
And God forbid, this person goes on to molest somebody. Or do anything inappropriate with a minor, this pastor that did not stop this will have to answer for this.
Exactly.
And that's where my peace lies. It's out of my hands. I did what I could do. I brought it to light. I said, this is very concerning to me. There is a mature adult man playing hide and go seek in his underwear with minors. I think it's inappropriate. It wasn't addressed, and I was punished. So that's just one example of, like, spiritual abuse that I've experienced with the church. And there's many more stories. So anything you'd like to share?
Well, Tamara, this is very mind-blowing that a spiritual leader will condone such things. It goes to show that we live at different, the era we live at nowadays is very, very... I don't even know what to say. It's unspeakable.
It's to protect themselves.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of these leaders are actually narcissists.
They are pretty much.
And they want people to worship them. I've seen that in another church that I won't mention, where this pastor is like a total cult leader. If you don't do what he says, if you don't smell the roses the way he wants them smelled, you're shunned from that church pretty much. And it's not a good feeling. I won't take all the time. I could talk forever. She knows this. But there's too much about spiritual abuse that I can
This is mind bothering, pretty much. Because I also, there's another church that my ex used to go to here in Corner Brook. And
Same.
Yes,
Same
I went in that church too, and I did talk to the pastor. There's more things I could disclose about that, but at this time, I'll be careful what I say. I will disclose things in the future, but the pastor knew about the abuses I was facing as well. But when I told him about it, it's like, I can give you guys counseling. I mean, well, how would you condone a bad behavior and then you are trying to encourage people to be together even though you know about the abuses?
And then his wife.
Exactly.
What his wife said to you.
The wife saw me, I was crying, I was just emotional, and then the wife said that to me, what's going on? And then I said, I had enough. And then she said, leave. She's like, I know he has a lot of issues that he never dealt with. Leave.
Yeah.
I said at this point I had enough. And then the wife of the pastor was like, if you want, you can talk to pastor, which means her husband. And then after the pastor, was done with the service and everything, I was like, Pastor, I would like to talk to you about something. And I went to the office, I spoke to the pastor, and the pastor's like, what, do you want me to talk to him? Blah, 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 blah. I can give you guys counseling. So my ex showed up as well in that, how the narcissism and everything. He's like, I'm willing to change, crying and whatever. At that point, I had enough.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I can't live like this. So in the next 2 days later, the domestic violence happened. As a result, I had to call the police and then mention that, okay, this has happened. I'm not going to get into details, but this has happened. My abuser did this and stuff like that. This is the child was there. I had to protect myself. And then I mentioned to the police, and I had to leave in that situation for the safety of my child and, my child and stuff, my safety as well. And yeah, so like to say all these things, I'm saying because the pastor, by the way, the pastor was called. I called the police, and my ex called the pastor. Because in his own as a narcissist, he wanted to cage me in that situation.
That validation from the pastor.
Exactly. When I call the police, that means I want to get out. This is not safe. So why would he call the pastor? If I'm calling the police, he's calling the pastor. The pastor to do what? To cage me? When the police were there to help me? You know what I'm saying?
And I feel bad for these pastors as well in a sense, because I feel like this individual, your abuser, my abuser, we've shared before that, we've both been victimized by him. Fortunately, Bree had it much worse because she married him, so it was a longer relationship, very toxic, very painful.
Oh yeah, we're very toxic.
I don't pretend that we have the same level of abuse or trauma from him, but we've shared similar experiences.
Exactly.
But it seems like he's very manipulative to even pastors, right?
I do believe that pastors do know this. However, I feel like the pastors, because of my belief that they are operating, on a cult or whatever that the spirit, whatever the spirit.
They definitely believe that a marriage should work, end of story, period. And they're forgetting that abuse is one of those things where it's like there's no working around that. If someone lays their hand on you, leave. There's no working around that.
The confusion that I have, they'll be talking about, forgive, this and that, whatever. Okay, does God, what kind of a God he is if you want his daughters or anybody for that matter to be mistreated and then you have to stay with an abuse and be abused?
Exactly.
What kind of God is that?
Exactly. That's what I always say is like, I'm God's daughter, you're God's daughter.
Exactly.
God wants me to be loved and respected.
Exactly, and be treated as such. You know what I'm saying? So, so I do hope that folks one day, these pastors, you pastors who are condoning abuses, you gotta stop, because at the judgment day, you'll be accountable. Okay, for condoning these abuses, whereas you should have stood up and say enough is enough. No, this is a God's daughter, or this is a man's, this is God's son. You know what I'm saying? Because also abuse is not only women being abused. Some men are being abused by women as well.
Definitely, but that very same pastor, when I came forward about being raped, he asked me in front of my rapist, how could someone rape you in a car? I could barely have sex with my wife in a car, he said.
Which means he was condoning this evil act.
Well, he was basically saying, like, it's impossible for someone to be raped in a car, which, first of all, is not true. But it was also very, like, you know, hurtful to me to hear that. It's like, okay, so you're saying you don't believe me, pretty much.
It was not in the place of pastor to play God and say, oh, I don't believe you, I believe him. You know what I'm saying? Why would he believe him? Why would he not believe you? You know what I'm saying? Because you spoke up about it. He should have at least tried to resolve the situation. Call that abuser and call you and speak about things and then discipline somebody who's done wrong.
I think he should have called the police.
Exactly.
I think as a pastor, and this is my take on this whole thing. Yeah. As a pastor, you have a duty to report. You know, whether that be child abuse, whether that be any form of abuse that you hear of. If someone comes to you and you are in a position of authority, and as spiritual leaders, you are in a position of authority. If someone comes to you and they say, I've been raped, I've been abused.
Speak up about it. Don't be silent.
You have to call the police for that person. You have to encourage that person to call the police at the very least. And realize that it's not your job. You know, it's not your job. And had you told me to call the police, Pastor, you know, I could have pressed charges. I might not be still here 5 years later without justice. Had you called the police for Bree or told her to call the police, you know, she wouldn't be dealing with what she's dealing with right now. And I don't want to place the burden on you, pastors. It's not completely all your responsibility, but you need to be more educated on abuse and on sexual assault and on these things, because this stuff is happening in your churches. Okay? This stuff is happening in your churches. And to the pastor that lit this pedophile off, okay, it is going to come back and bite you, sir. You're in a very high position right now of authority. You've made it big. That's all I'm going to say. But let me tell you, you discouraged me. You discouraged me. You broke my heart. I am God's daughter, and you had no right to humiliate me in front of all of those people. And you know who you are. And I just want you to know that God will vindicate for me. And if anything were to ever comes out of this situation, I pity you. Because you walked on me to get where you are. And God is not going to have it.
I'm sorry for your experience.
I'm okay.
I'm really sorry about
this feels good. This is therapeutic. I hope you watch this, sir.
Yeah. Like, I'm really sorry about your experience, because what the pastor has done is not a right approach as a spiritual leader. I'm also going to share my experience as well with the pastor as well. That when the police had been called by my abuser after the domestic violence, the pastor had promised, you know, because I was packing my belongings and the belongings of, you know, and stuff like that. And the pastor, the pastor was like, I'll get your belongings to you. You know, I can reach out to my wife. My wife can get them, you know, whatever. And that did not happen. My abuser seized my belongings. And up to today, he still have them in the belongings of my daughter. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it was just a horrible situation that the pastor also had a hand in this to advise my abuser to keep the belongings. You know, so to me, the pastor did not want me to be safe, and the child wanted to cage me in that abusive situation by having my abuser keep my belongings and the belongings of my daughter.
Exactly. And I also want to add before we end this video, that this does not represent God or the kingdom of God or God's heart. I'll finish off. It's good. Or God's heart. You know, God is not man. Man, we are fickle. We are weak. We make mistakes. And we do not fully represent the goodness and the mercy and the love of God. You know, personally, I have some reservations with the church and how they do things, how they segregate people and separate people and put them in categories. You know, I wanted to be a pastor. My pastor totally, you know, told me, like, no, you can't be a pastor for whatever reason or for whatever purpose he thought he had that authority. But, you know, I really believe that there are people that got in the way of the plans and the purposes that God had for my life, but I know that God will vindicate for me, that I'm not a lost cause, that God is still on my side. And one thing I've never been is a pushover. I've never been able to be silenced, and I never will be. And, you know, the church is probably one of the most abusive places you could be as an individual. When you go to church, a lot of the times you feel like an outcast if you don't submit to their idealism. I can't really talk, but
ideologies.
But also, I want to say that even what the enemy means for evil, you know, God makes it to his good.
Exactly. It happened to Joseph when his brothers sold him to the Egyptians. What happened is that God used Joseph to be the one who's feeding his own brothers and father, and he brought them to Egypt because he was made a ruler. Right? Yeah. So whatever that the enemy, he mentioned that whatever the enemy meant for bad, he's using, you know, for God's glory. So whatever the enemy that has used the pastor for to hurt you, God will turn things around for your favor.
And the same for you.
Thank you so much. So the word of God that I read, it was Genesis chapter 12, I believe it was verse number 3 to 4 or verse 3 to 5, where he was saying that God will bless those who bless you and God will curse those who harm you. So whoever you are, you have intention to harm God's children, God will curse you. Okay? God will vindicate for those people that you are hurting. All right. So these spiritual abuses I mean, we are not people in authority to stop that, because evil is evil and evil is being poured out there, right? So the era that we're living at right now is hard.
Yes, for sure.
You know, things are good is bad, bad is good. You know what I'm saying? That's just how evil and how abominable time we live at right now. There's a lot going on. Last year, CERN has been wide opened. In Atlanta, Georgia Guidestone has been, you know, vandalized. So that goes to show that evil has been poured out right there. The times that we're living is very hard.
And it's not even about the world, it's about the church.
About the church, it's
like,
worse.
If you want to live in the world, you know, whatever, but if you're going to say you're a pastor, you're a leader, you know, and you're going to do things that are like completely opposite of the Bible, well then, sorry, you're not a pastor to me. It's just that simple.
I hope
I have a really big thing against certain experiences I've had. I don't hate any of these people. However, I really believe that they made a mockery of God's kingdom.
Exactly. I hope that one day, folks, these spiritual abuses end, because it's not good when people are in authority to do what's right and be leaders, to lead God's children, to be accountable of other people's souls, and do, you know, the other way around or contrary. So I hope these abuses end, because it's called spiritual abuse. Pastors, be careful, because you are accountable for our souls, and if you go against what God has placed you to do, to intercede for our soul and to do all the spiritual welfare, you are causing harm. My rabbi mentioned this the other Shabbat, said that it's called what's
murdering
the
the soul.
Murdering the soul. It's like you were there. It's murdering
me.
soul. Yeah. So when you harm somebody emotionally, you are murdering their soul. You are becoming a spiritual murderer. Can you imagine that somebody don't know that they are murdering somebody's soul, and then they're carrying on by hurting people's emotions? That is murdering other people's souls. Okay? Be careful, because one day you'll be accountable. I love you with all my heart. This is Bree.
Bye.
You can end it. You know, we live at very difficult times in our world these days, where good is bad and where bad is good, where good people like you and I have been oppressed by the evildoers, and where evildoers have been endorsed by the devil to oppress good people like you and I. Do you know why they hate us? Because we got God by our side, and we have truth, and the truth is of God. Let me communicate something to you, evildoers. What
What's this for? For what? For money? We shall all leave money behind the grave. Shame on you, evildoers. To good people out there, people of God who stand by truth, who has truth and light of God, I want to leave you with a word of encouragement that is found on the book of Isaiah 54:17. That says, no weapon formed against you will prosper, and you will condemn every tongue that rises against you in judgment. Guess what? We will judge the evildoers. Any tongue that is rising against us right now at Judgment Day, we shall condemn. I love you, good people. Let's stand for what's right. Let's stand for truth, because truth has power to do one thing, to set us free. I love you with all my heart. This is Bree. Stay tuned.